Hello everyone. Thankfully, it is the final part. Yeah, there is a part 4. No part 5. I was pretty worried there would be a part 5, but nah, it was... There's only 4 parts left. There's only 1 part left, and you're watching it right now. So yeah, as we left off, we came back up from the sewers, from the previous one, climbed up the tree, completely skipped the real round table hold, completely forgot about it, and instead we're gonna explore this little temple and church here, and then a little bit of the arena. So not really much, but then we're gonna see the final boss of the sea. So yeah. And yeah, so after this one, I think uploads should be back up to normal. I hope anyways. I also did mention earlier that however, I missed something. I think it's because I accidentally turned off the camera, and so when I recorded it, it was completely black, so that'll be gone, but thankfully it was nothing too important, and that was only like a small part. Everything after making all those mistakes, I really made sure to, neither mic is off over screen. And yeah, I'm also gonna be following from the previous videos. I'm gonna talk a bit more lax and not as often, because I just kind of want to get this out of the way, but also because I think it's just kind of unnecessary to put additional input, and I'll only say stuff that is relevant to what we're seeing only when I feel it to be relevant. So yeah, enjoy everyone. I was wondering if some of those bloodstains were from people falling down, but I guess it's not possible. In which case, most people just died on Godfrey, which I didn't find that much challenging. And I already told the story of how in the previous one, of how my brother managed to beat that boss with no Estus and like only a sneeze away from dying by just hiding behind his shield and poking it with a pike. Which I found pretty hilarious when I watched it. It's pretty weird too. He could even block the earthquake attacks as well with the shield, which is weird. You think that would like bypass it because it's an earthquake, but nope. Shield says like, nah, that's not hitting anything. This is not a message, by the way, by like any player. It's actually a developer message, as you call them, it's a message specifically left by the developers to to point towards something. And even tell it, because it does not have like an appraisal. You cannot appraise it. I have no clue though if that's what I thought though. It's been so long since we'll actually this is probably one of the few times you'll ever see like the start menu of the game, because of a weird thing that happened. And we'll actually see what version of this, so if you're playing right now Elden Ring, you'll see where this playthrough was. Yeah, it took me a while to upload and get any of this stuff. Don't know why I started off with Dragon Ice. I think it would have been easier if I just went with Rock Breath and just killed her. Not that it probably would have mattered, since I pretty much... At this point, compared to the start of the journey, I just do not find Crucible Knights challenging at all. Or maybe it's just the spear ones. The ones with the shield can put up a good fight, but then again, that's just because they like to turtle quite a bit behind their shield. Also high up enough to get the Bolt of Grandsax weapon. Oh, whoops, sorry, my bad. Oh well, you knew we were getting the thing as a weapon. Also, this is probably one of the few times I probably felt like being smart when I went like, you know what, why am I wasting time trying to swing at this guy perfectly? I have an AoE spell. And dealt with the Scarab. If only I dealt with all the other previous Scarabs earlier like that. Thankfully I learned my lesson, and we get the incantation to make magic builds cry. Greatly increases magic damage negation for the caster and nearby allies. This incantation was used by the champions of the Erdtree in the First and Second Linear War. I didn't get to read it. Maybe because I was just simply going like, alright, this is the magic do no more damage incantation, and so I just didn't bother reading it. That, or I probably had another one. I don't know what. I don't know why I just closed it that quickly. Being very careful here because I don't want to go over the edge and potentially fall down even further and probably die and end up wasting some time. One thing I wonder though is why they never bothered to clean up Grandsax's corpse and spear. Probably because they had no one to do it because it's so big. Spear whistled from the weapon wielded by Grandsax, one of the legendary armaments. A great ancient dragon, Grandsax once rained calamity upon the royal capital, the only time in historical record that Lindell's walls have fallen. This marked the dawn of the war against the ancient dragon. And this is pretty much just simply, if you want a red lightning spear, well, that's what the weapon art is. It's pretty much just that. It is just simply a bigger, beefier lightning spear. Sadly though, if you want to use it, you need to invest quite a bit of dexterity to it, like 40, which is a high ass amount. And yeah, I never put it into use. Not at least in this playthrough. Next one, if I have a dex-centered build, I might actually. Oh, I was particularly proud of this little moment because I managed to combo this guy with a array of incantations and spells, and I quite liked how it looked like. I was quite happy about how I went. I felt very proud of myself there. Sadly, you kind of... I kind of the playstyle that's kind of like sometimes not worth casting an incantation just because of how slow they are, or a spell. How slow and impractical are, and bosses tend to be so aggressive and do so much damage that I kind of feel like that like standing still for even a extended period of time is a bit suicide. On PvP though, it's probably... On PvP though, you have a bit more leeway. Not only that though, when it comes to combos, the thing I found out though, when I finally finished and I let myself start watching Elden Ring PvP videos, or just Elden Ring stuff in general, there is a thing called true comboing. And you can even do this with incantations, where some incantations and sorceries even, you can actually come out faster if you do particular ones in a particular sequence. For example, Carrion Slicer has a... I've seen some, for example, where if with certain weapons you can actually swing Carrion Slicer and not have the first one, which has a significantly long startup animation. And doing the button in that specific... And doing that button press in a specific sequence will make it come out much faster. Whereas if you just did Carrion Slicer, or started with the slicer first, there is a significant wind-up before it starts. The Urge Tree Bow. Long bow featuring Urge Tree styling. In times of old, when faith and battle were hand in hand, this weapon was created in tandem with the golden arrow. Scales all arrow damage with faith, revealing its true nature when wielded with holy arrows. There is actually the Urge Tree Great Bow, but sadly I missed it. It's in actually one of the... In the first catacomb you ever see, which is like when you die in the starting area, in the Chapel of Anticipation, either by the Grafted Scion or by jumping off, as I've seen. In the catacomb there is a... Oh, and we have a book. So sorry, I have to read this. Prayer Book of the Golden Order of Fundamentalists, a dense and complex academic treatise that contains the Order's fundamental principles, Radigan's Rings of Light, and Law of Aggression. Alright, we're done with that. So, as I was saying, the catacomb, which I have done, but there's actually two things I missed in it. One, you can actually destroy the AI chariot by dropping some like big urn bombs on it that are hanging off the roof using an arrow, and you can get the Urge Tree Bow of it. And I also missed there's a lower level Urge Tree Favor Talisman, which I missed there. Of course I probably would have met at her anyway. But yeah. Other than that, I'm also wondering why is there this black knife here? Were they here to assassinate Morgott or something like that? Not only that, there's like a bunch of finger maidens just sitting here and pretty much dead. There's probably like an in-game explanation for it, but it could also be a reference to these I can't recall what they were. I think they were pilgrims or something like that, which were in Dark Souls 3, where you had these people who were on a pilgrimage, and what they wore was essentially they wore these robes and rags that covered their... that kind of gave them an inhuman look. Best to describe it, because it completely hid their faces. And also, as well as like a rock on their back strapped with chains, and they carried a walking stick with them. So it could just be a reference to that, though. I also picked up an incantation, which is grants greater blessing to self and nearby allies. I believe this is grants a blessing, gradually restoring a large amount of HP. The earth tree once flourished with abundance, yet it was only for a fleeting moment. Such is the sort of life, or way of life. The thing I didn't know, though, is that the enemies that I hated so much, the revenants, which are these guys that have the multiple limbs and they come out of the ground, and as well as fire, these yellowish black projectiles with bells are actually, if you use AoE heals on them, they'll get damaged, and heals like Earth Tree's Blessing, which is an AoE HP restoring buff, actually poisons them. But I didn't know about that, so yeah. There's also a bit of a surprise here that I was a bit tempted to actually use, but I did not decide to do. This was probably one of the few fights I actually did without summons. The rest I pretty much just used summons without shame. Oh yeah, it's Melina.
What is thy business with these thrones? Ah, Godric the Golden. The twin prodigies, Mikola and Melania. General Radahn. Praetor Rykard. Luna Princess Rani. Willful traitors, all. Thy kind are all of a piece. Pillagers, emboldened by the flame of ambition. Have it writ upon thy meager grave. Felled by King Margit, last of all kings.
Alright, we're finding the Margit, who, as it turns out, was actually Margit the Fell. Which, unfortunately, I kind of knew about this already, just simply because, unfortunately, I was browsing Pinterest when all of a sudden, I saw a picture of Melina. There was actually a picture depicting Melina fighting with Margit. And I was going like, well, first of all, other than being cool, I went, fuck me, why? Yeah, a lot I tried to avoid spoilers, but a lot I got given just by simply the YouTube feed, seeing just by the YouTube feed because of Elden Ring's release, just giving me stuff about Elden Ring, and sadly that spoiled a bit of the game for me. That move, I'm wondering how difficult the the grabbing stab is difficult to move. I've mentioned before that I'm currently in New Game Plus, and I've been, when I fought him again, he consistently grabbed me, with that, and I was always surprised by it. Here he's kind of easy though, mainly because of the Scarlet Rot doing most of the work. I mean, Jesus Christ, look at that damage racked up. He also seems, I don't know why, but I feel like he's actually faster. And I have no clue how that did not hit me. That should have hit me. I feel like, looking back at it, I'm going like, that should have hit. Also, I also did not know this. If you see that, that's his corpse laying there. And you can actually talk to him one final time and he tells you what's gonna happen if you approach the Earth Tree. I noticed that you couldn't leave, but, well, this is the same person who, after beating Vare when invading them, completely missed them, and yeah, I just walked past him having no clue about him. I mean, look, he's literally right there. And I'm like, nope, seen nothing. I have possibly the worst case of tunnel vision. When I am with a particular goal, which is to, like, go see something, or when I think there's, like, a particular goal, I will sometimes just completely not look around me. Oh, I also didn't read it. Sorry. Though born of a Graceland's omen, Margit took it upon himself to become the Erdrich's protector. He loved and not in return. Yeah, he loved it all the same. Not exactly, but... yeah. The point of interest, anyway, though, was how I completely missed Morgoth's corpse, though. It's one of those things that started to make me really look back on how I did things. It's like, maybe I should start taking things slower and actually paying attention to things, because there's a lot I missed. There is a lot I could have just simply known by just, like, carefully reading things, as I mentioned previously, like, for example, talismans boosting certain incantations, which kind of isn't practical for me because of the fact that it would mean I'd have to swap out my right hand. I would have to swap out my right hand weapon, the Darkmoon Greatsword. And if I swapped while it buffed, that eliminates the buffed, which pretty much equates to wasted FP. Also, Melina is back.
Hello again, old friend.
Sadly, I didn't use her though.
A moment
I do have a video though that I'm planning to upload of me using to summon her though.
Tree. No, prevented by the mantle of barbs. The thorns are impenetrable, a husk of the Tree's being that spurns all that exists without. The only way to stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord is to pass the thorns. My purpose serves to aid in that very act, so I'd like you to undertake a new journey with me to the Flame of Ruin, far above the clouds, upon the snowy mountain tops of the giants. Then I can set the Erd Tree aflame and guide you down the path to becoming Elden Lord. Shall I turn your runes to strength? Let my hand rest upon you for but a moment. Share them with me. Your thoughts, your ambitions, the principles you would follow. I wish to journey with you once more to the Flame of Ruin, far above the clouds, upon the snowy mountain tops of the giants. Then I can set the Erd Tree aflame and guide you down the path to becoming Elden.
And there it is. And there it is. Connection lost to the servers. And you'll get to see what the version this was here. While rewatching this, it was kind of a surprise. I forgot about that. I mainly just remembered this part for forgetting to turn on the microphone. And as you can see, we're in version 1.04, which I can't remember what patch this was, but a thing I want to bring up actually is that a thing I noticed on New Game Plus us playthrough, because my second is the New Game Plus of this character, is that Melina's sitting pose seems to change after you talk with her.
You managed to
After Margit.
You know what this means. The Earth Tree has spurned you. The fingers remain still, shaken by this turn of events. They are busy consulting the greater will. When they are finished, the fingers will again offer their guidance. But thousands, if not tens of thousands, of moons must first pass. No matter for me, but you. How will you ever manage the weight? My, oh my.
And now some items from Margit or Margit. Warped blade of shifting hue used by Margit the Omen King. The accursed blood that Margit recanted and sealed away, reformed into this blade. Cursed blood slice, brace, then charge forward to deliver a downward diagonal slice. The bloody trail of the blade is followed by a burst of flame. Additional input allow us for a follow-up. Omen babies born of royalty do not have their horns excised, but instead are kept underground, unbeknownst to anyone, imprisoned for eternity.
Heavens forbid. That is not the domain of mere men. The burning of the Earth Tree is the first cardinal sin. And you say you seek the power of the Rune of Death too? The Rune of Death goes by two names. The other is Destined Death. The forbidden shadow plucked from the Golden Order upon its creation. Unleashing the rune now would be unthinkable. The fingers would never permit it. Nor would the greater will. But here we are. The fingers dormant, severing our link to the greater will. The realm and all life in ruins. Impossible events transpire beyond the ken of the fingers. Who is to say that the cardinal sin must be cardinal forever? Go on. Finish the job. Take the course you deem most worthy. You must find kindling. Only the smoldering flame in the great forge of the giants on the highest peak in the lands between can burn the Earth Tree. But special kindling is required to reignite the flame. For the flame to burn the Earth Tree, a sacrifice is needed of one who envisions the flame and can lead you to the Rune of Death.
Alright, so that's pretty much the last part coming to a close. One thing I gotta mention, I don't remember Melina mentioning the Rune of Death as being important. Instead it sounds like it feels like a suggestion made by our character, which is kind of interesting, because we're also keeping it secret that Melina is kind of acting for us as a finger maiden. And on the topic of Melina, as I said, I noticed that her sitting pose changes. Normally she kind of has her cloak hide her arms, and and looking a bit like a ditto. But I noticed that after talking with Margit, her sitting pose seems to change. She now seems to be like holding her right arm with her left hand and clutching it with her left hand. And it's a thing that I noticed only in my second playthrough, and I even went as far as making a second character just to see if Melina's pose changes, and no, apparently that is a change that happens. I plan on making a short though of that when that to display that more so.
If you would. Take no heed of cardinal sin. The two fingers lost their purpose a long, long time ago. If you're heading, you'll need to find. Go if you would. The two finger. There are 4 more demigods yet. Nicola of the Halig Tree. His twin, Melania, Lunar Princess Rand. Rani is said to have saw here at the hold. If you should learn, I'll trade you. We both desire to as such.
Aye, that's the final part over. Well, see you everyone.